Hey everybody, Rick with Rick's Adventures. I'm getting ready to head back to the USA, and Tia managed to get her tourist visa. So in this video, I'm going to discuss all the steps and all of the red tape we had to go through to get that visa for her. And sorry I've been gone for a little while, but we've been working so hard with that and traveling. That's why I've been absent for a few weeks. So stick around. I hope you like the video, and I hope it helps some of you out. Okay, guys, let's get into this. We decided I've got to go back to the USA. I've been over here in Thailand for about 6 months now almost on my retirement visa, but it's time for me to go back to the States to take care of a little bit of business. So I wanted Tia to go because she's never been outside of Thailand. She's been into Laos once with me, and that's it. She's never been to any other countries here in Southeast Asia. And she's really excited about this because she told me that it's been her dream since a little girl to be able to go to the USA. So for you, those of you that don't quite understand the Thai culture and how they view the USA, they do view it as being the land of opportunity, and they really it's just a very exciting thing to them. So I'm anxious to take her over there. And she was so excited whenever she finally got approved at the embassy. But I can tell you, we really had to go through a lot of steps to get this done. First off, excuse me, my allergies are getting me a little bit here. First off, whenever we wanted to do this, she had applied for this a year ago. And she went in and they just flat turned her down. And she thought she had all the proper paperwork, but evidently she was missing something. They don't have to give you a reason. All they do is when you go in, you present the paperwork for the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok, and the embassy representative from the USA looks it over. They ask you a few questions, and then they look at you and either say, yes, you go, or no, you don't. And that's just it. So we found out the hard way. It was really heartbreaking for her the first time. So she tried a second time, and it was a few months later, and they turned her down again. And she was really upset about it this time. She felt like she had all of the proper paperwork, she had everything in order, and they just told her, no, you're not going. Well, this is rather upsetting to me because I see everything going on with our borders and people just crossing over them willy-nilly, and anybody can come in and giving them phones and anywhere from $500 to $1,000 and all this and shipping them all over the place. And yet Tia was having a difficult time just getting a tourist visa. She's not trying to get a green card. She's not trying to move there. She's just wanting to travel over there with me while I'm back in the States for about 3 or 4 months. So what we did this time is we went through and we got an agent. It wasn't very expensive. I think we paid about 7,000 baht just to be sure, because it was somebody that had a lot of experience with it, getting all of the paperwork in order and making sure everything was exact as it should be. And I wanted to let you guys know how much we had to do just to get this visa. Now, for you people, excuse me, in the States, this may or it should upset you whenever you see how many people are coming in without any issue whatsoever. And I've got a few friends over here that have Thai wives or Thai girlfriends, that type of thing, and they're either from Canada or the UK or the USA, and they want to take them back to the States, and they're getting turned down. And they're good people. There's nothing wrong. There's no violations, no crimes, no anything, and they just flat turn them down. And the agency that I hired, the lady told me that it was very common that the U.S. Embassy turned them down all the time, and the reason she was getting was they wanted to make sure that Thai people didn't go there and just decide to stay in the United States. Now put that in your pipe and smoke it whenever you see what our border crisis is. They just didn't want, and this is the U.S. Embassy that they go to, and they just wanted to be sure that the Thai people didn't go over there with their boyfriend and just stay. And, become, her words were, they told her, and become a burden on the USA. So I was just completely appalled and livid whenever I heard her make that statement. But that aside, we went through and we got everything together. Now, here's what we had to do, and there may be a few things I forget because I'm winging this video because we've been so busy. I don't have any notes, so I'm going to try to step you through Excuse me if I get things out of order. But you'll get the gist of it. The idea is not to tell you how to go get one. The idea of this video is to tell you what we had to do and how much red tape we had to go through. So the first thing we needed to do was Tia had to get her Tabian ban, which showed she had a permanent residence here in Thailand. So she got a copy of that. She had to get all of her bank statements because she's a teacher. She's worked here for over 20 years. And is a civil servant with the government, and so she had to take in all of her government ID. She had to take in a current passport. She had to take in passport photos. She needed a statement from her boss at the school system, her superior that's in like the administrative office, that he would allow her to take off, and it was no problem, and she could have all the time off she needed, and when she came back, her job would be here. All she had to do was walk in the office and say, I'm back, and they would put her back in charge of her schools that she was taking care of. So she had to get that from him, and it had to be signed by him, typed by him, on letterhead from the school, and it had to be an official document from him stating this. Then I was required to show them, write a statement out. I had to give them copies of my passport. I gave them copies of my Thai driver's license. I gave them copies of my retirement visa, which is over here, my non-immigrant type O. I had to give them statements, bank statements, for previous 6 months and no older than 30 days old, I believe is what it was. It might have been 60, but I think they said 30. And I had to write this letter and say that I acknowledged she was coming back with me, and I had to show them my address. They had to verify that I had an address and I lived in the USA where I said, and they ran a background check on me, and they ran, I guess to make sure I wasn't sex trafficking, they ran a background check on Tia, even though she already worked for the government and had a civil servant job, but they still did that. She had to get a health certificate to show she was healthy coming into the country. Now, bear in mind, as I'm telling you this, all the people crossing the border into the USA from many different countries. She had to have the health certificate. I think I already said she had to have her bank statements. What else did we have to have here? Oh, we had to have photos of me with her family at family events to show that I knew her family and her family knew me. She had to give names of her family. She gave the name of her daughter, who is an adult over here. They had all of this verification, wanting to see that she had reason to not stay in the USA, just to go and visit, and then that they wanted to be sure in their minds that she was going to not stay in the United States with me, that this wasn't some trick we were trying to pull over their, the wool over their eyes type situation. This just blew me away, you guys. I was just totally blown away by it. But we gathered all the documentation. My bank statements had to be on letterhead, which this was kind of difficult to do, but I got my bank to send me all of my statements. It was on letterhead so that they'd know it was official. I didn't send them all my bank accounts. I just sent them one. I asked the agent about how much money she thought they would want to see, and she said just a steady stream, of income coming in. It didn't have to be that much, so I wasn't about to give them all of my information on bank accounts, so I just gave them a checking account and gave them the, copies of that and 6 months worth, full statements. I was trying to think what else I had to give. I told you about the address. There was a few more things, and I can't remember what it was. But now here was the other part that was really tough about this, and that is we are in the Isan region, which is northern Thailand, out in the village area and farmland. And the U.S. Embassy in Thailand is in Bangkok. So we had to make an appointment, and the interview was in Bangkok at the U.S. Embassy. Well, you can't walk up to the embassy. We thought you could walk up there and make an appointment at the window. You can't. You can't walk in the embassy. You go up, and we found out the only way to make an appointment is to go online and make an appointment. Well, because we hired an agent, the agent filled us in on this. We already knew this from previous attempts, but the agent took care of. She asked what dates we thought we could go, and then she kept a tag on everything. And if there was an earlier date that came up, we'd get in. But we ended up having to wait almost, I think it was 6 weeks to get the appointment to get in. So you have a 6 week spread. You have to file for it online. We had to get all this paperwork together. We had to have it in order, in a specific order, right down the line. Then this didn't mean you get to go. What this means is then Tia had to take all of this information in, and she would go in, set in a queue, and then whenever her number came up, she'd go and talk to the U.S. immigration officer. Then she had to have an interview. They would look at all of her documentation. They'd go through it, and she told me I wasn't allowed in. That's the other thing I found really interesting about this. Here I'm a U.S. citizen, and I've got Tia wanting to come to the USA with me, and I wasn't even allowed to go in the building. So I stood outside in the heat for about 2 hours because I wasn't going to leave. I wanted to be there when she came out because I knew when she came out, she'd either be heartbroken and crying or she'd come out and be really happy. So I wanted to be there for either situation that occurred. But she told me when she got in, she had a folder about this thick with all of the paperwork in it. And she went in and she said she came up for her time. She went up and she was very polite. And of course, she dressed well. They told her to dress very nice to get in. And she went up, and this time she had a male immigration officer. And I told her the previous 2 times she had had a female United States immigration officer. And I told her, I said, well, this is going to get me a lot of comments, I'm sure, but that was one of the problems, I'm sure, because it is always much more, it's easier generally to deal with a male in a position like that than it is a female. That's just a fact. Even my mother used to work in a lot of different jobs, and she said she would rather have a male call in she had to deal with than a female. Females were far more difficult. So Tia had told me on the first interviews that the women that had did it at the embassy kind of looked down their nose at her, and just, she just got that vibe that they just really didn't think very highly of her, and were kind of a little, I guess snooty or whatever word you want to use. Not rude. They weren't rude, but you know how you get that vibe, somebody's just kind of looking down at you and not really making you feel comfortable. She said this guy was okay. She walked up and he greeted her very nice and, said, have a seat. And he asked how she was doing today. And she said she was doing fine, and asked him, cordial conversation. How are you doing, sir? And he said, I'm just fine. He said, you don't have to call me sir. And he said, I'm just going to ask you some questions. Let me see your documentation. And she said, okay. So he asked her a few questions, and she started talking to him, and he told her, he said, now, do you speak English? And she said, oh, yes, I speak English. And he said, are you excited right now? And she said, yeah, I am. And he said, well, I can tell because sometimes you're going from English and speaking a little bit of Thai. So he said, don't be, upset. Don't be nervous. He said, just take your time. And he said, why are you so nervous about this? And she said, because I've came twice and I've failed. She said, I've had 2 previous attempts at this. And he goes, yeah, I see, and I see who you'd talk to. He said, don't be nervous. He said, I don't want you nervous at all. So he just asked her, do you speak English? And she said, yes, I do. She said, it's, I'm still working on it. But I'm getting it down pretty well. And he goes, yeah, I can tell that. And he asked her why she was wanting to go to the USA. And she said, well, Rick, my husband is wanting to go back to the USA for a while. So he wants to go back, and he wants to take me with him, and he wants to take me around so I can see it. It's been a dream since I was a kid to go to the United States. So this was a good opportunity. She said he's got a retirement visa in Thailand, and he plans on living in Thailand 6, 7, 8 months out of the year and going back to the USA maybe 3, 4 months a year. And she said, so we're going to go back, and he's going to take me to, like Las Vegas and see the Grand Canyon. We may go on a cruise ship, on a 3 or 4 day cruise. Some things I've never done in my life that I've only dreamed of doing. And he wants me, to be able to go back and forth with him. And the guy said, okay. And he said, I can understand that. And he said, so you've got relatives here? And he said, I see you've got relatives. And she said, yes. And he said, I see you work for the school system. And she said, yes, that's correct. And he asked her just a few more, just not really much of anything. She said he was typing on the computer and look up. And he was very kind and easygoing. And she said, all of a sudden, he just looked at her and he said, "Okay, Tia, I guess we're all done here," and everything. And she said that she got a little bit tense, thinking he was going to say, "You're not going to get to go," because that's what they always did before. And she said he looked at her and said, "Welcome to the USA." And she was ecstatic. I mean, she was just ecstatic. Said she told him, "Thank you so much." She was so happy. And I was standing outside the door, and whenever she came out, I mean, I knew she'd got it. She told me she was going to try to trick me and come out with just a monotone, look and not show all the excitement. But she said she couldn't keep from it. She just had such a big smile, and she came out. And immediately when she came out the door and seen me, she was jumping up and down. She said, "I get to go to the USA. I get to go to the USA. I'm so happy," and ran down. And it was a really good moment. I don't know how else to explain it. It made me so happy to see her, so excited about getting to take this trip. So that's pretty well the sum of what happened. And we did have to jump through a few more hoops. I mean, you think about it, we had to fly to Bangkok. We had to get to Udon Thani from Isan. Udon Thani, we flew into Bangkok. We had to get hotel rooms and stay 2-3 days so we could go through all this interview and take all the paperwork. But in the end, I can tell you it was well worth it. The look on her face, and she's so excited about going back, it was worth every bit of effort we went through. So that's why I've been absent. I'm going to have a lot more videos because I'm going to try to do some recording of what it's like for her from the beginning of her trip to the USA and what she thinks about the USA and things that she sees there and goes on there, what she thinks from all different aspects, just from the driving, from grocery shopping, you name it. I'm going to try to get some reaction videos. We're also on TikTok. I'll throw up the link on this so you guys can follow on that, because I throw up a lot of TikToks because it's very easy for me to do with my iPhone. I can be someplace, just hold my phone up, see something, and throw it up on TikTok. And then whenever I get a chance, I sit down and do one of these talking head videos, or I take video I've recorded with my camera and put in, if you can tell from the past. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it gives those buddies of mine and friends out there that have been sending me messages that their wife just recently got turned down or their girlfriend got turned down. Hope it gives you hope. Don't give up. I know it's a pain in the ass, and I know it's not fair with what's going on in the States and the border crossings and what they're allowing. It seems crazy to me that these people over here would be so put in such an awkward position to have to do so much just to go over to visit and come back for 1 or 2 months, But you can't change how it is. All you can do is try to work with the system the best you can. That's what we did. We finally succeeded. We're both very happy about it. And I hope you guys that are trying this, don't give up. You will succeed. I know you'll get through, and I know your wife or your girlfriend, you'll get it. It's just a common practice that they get turned down once or twice. Then they'll get the right person. They'll walk in, and they'll go smooth as silk. So this is Rick with Rick's Adventures, guys. I'm going to sign off. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell for me. It's really helping. I'm not monetized, and I'm not even trying to monetize. What I'm trying to do is just give good information to you guys, and I hope I do. I hope it helps you in some way. So again, Rick with Rick's Adventures. I'm signing off. I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everybody.